Hello, this is Gordon Goodwin. Thank you for joining us today as we take an inside look at the Big Fat Band's new release, That's How We Roll. In this series of videos, we'll go deep inside the recording and production process that we undergo while making a record of this kind. Making a record like this doesn't happen overnight. It takes organization, planning, passion, perseverance, sweat equity, and money. Mustn't forget about the money. So, come with me, if you dare, as we speak in intimate detail with key members of the Big Fat Band, and we'll see firsthand the kind of evil genius it takes to make a modern-day big band record. Welcome to the making of That's How We Roll. Okay, everybody, it's not very often that I get to be in such close proximity with two handsome gentlemen.
A little too close for me.
A little bit too close. All right, so
I'm comfortable here.
Well, for me, it's not happening that often. It's a rare treat for me to sit this close. I mean, you guys seem to be, at least 10, 12 feet away from me when we do a gig. I don't get to feel the electricity that comes from being Andy Martin or Wayne Bergeron.
It's almost far enough away.
For those of you that haven't lived under a rock and don't know, Wayne Bergeron is the lead trumpet player with the Big Fat Band, and Andy Martin is our first trombonist. Both charter members of the band, right?
That's right.
And you're still showing up for gigs most of the time.
We show up all the time, Gordon. I have no idea. We're not subbing out.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, okay, for instance, I know the Big Fat Band's not your only activity. Like today, what did you do, for today?
Dancing with the
Stars.
Stars.
That's great. Okay, and how about you?
I did.
Anyway, so
I'm gonna have to start taking outside work. For my band, I hate to do it, but I'm gonna have to start doing that.
If you do that, though, you might risk missing out on opportunities like being on the record like this. That's how we roll. I'm not sure how you feel.
You're not gonna use me?
If you had to choose between playing Dancing on the Stars and doing this record, what would you do?
Musically, that record every time.
Boy. Let me ask you this. Is the skill set that you needed to play on this music, how close do you get that on a typical Dancing with the Stars taping?
Never.
It's probably a good idea not to completely sink your commercial career doing this video.
No, believe me, Dancing with the Stars is a great gig, pays the bills, I love it, and lots of cute girls dancing around with very little clothing. So that part, you gotta work on it.
Yeah.
You gotta work on that part of it.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with him on that with cute dancing girls. Stuff.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, let's get around to the music on this record, and of course, having people who talk to me about the difficulty of my arrangements, all I have to do is point to these guys. And if you had them in your band, what would you write? Because the truth is, everything I write, they play. And we're going to talk about some of the charts that they contributed to in a significant way, starting with a tune that I wrote to be as hard as possible. I mean, I really tried to make it hard. And it's called Race to the Bridge. And it features solos on each section. This leading off with a fairly difficult trombone solo. Now, but tell me for sure, is this something that is like at a difficulty level 1 to 10? Who would you rate that solo?
Oh, I would say a 9+, maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So you think that, like, how you play it now, is it that much better than how you played it the first time we read it? Was it really?
I think it's better now because we figured out how to play it better. I think over the period of playing it a number of times, you kind of get a feel for it, and you know what's coming, and you know what to lay for, and using certain slide positions to make it easier. Stuff like that's come along, yeah.
Right. It's got a high D flat at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did publish that arrangement, and I revoiced the chord for like an optional, lower partial.
Oh, yeah?
In case,
Oh, that one beat voicing, yeah.
Well, I don't know how many high school trombone players have a high D flat.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's up there, yeah.
Yeah, so after the trombone solo, there's an equally different, maybe even more difficult trumpet solo.
It's pretty difficult. I would give it an 8, probably.
Really?
It sounds more difficult. At least you guys make it. I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
Just teasing.
I would give it an 8 because, we do some other things that are pretty difficult as well. So I don't want to put anything at a 10 because I know you can write harder than that.
Okay, you're right.
That,
Don't push me, man.
And maybe I should have said it was a 10, so you won't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was surprised you would call it an 8 because I really tried to make it one of those things that's a high wire act, so that people in the audience, and I think they do react that way. They're like, "Oh yeah, all those guys are."
But it's not easy. But it's effective. So.
Now, if you step away from it for a while, and then you have to play it again. I mean, does it take you a minute to find it again on the?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a couple licks in there I got to look at
Yes.
again.
Definitely.
Wow. Well, the song's based on "I Got Rhythm Changes," which is, of course, the mother lode, for jazz players, and we all love playing on those chords, and yields a multitude of possibilities improvisationally and also compositionally.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's segue to another song that we did on the record, which is an arrangement of an American classic. Actually, I'd even broaden it out to be, not just he was an American composer, but we've played this composition all over the world, and audiences just respond to it like nothing else. And we're talking about George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. Both Wayne and Andy feature prominently in the arrangement, and it was an arrangement that, by and large, I just didn't want to mess it up, because it's so iconic, and everybody knows like what it's supposed to sound like, right? So, I mean, when you play this, do you relate it in any way to the orchestral version that we all know so well, or is it kind of big fat band-esque centric?
No, I mean I think especially the ballad section where Andy has the solo and then I follow is definitely more on the orchestral side of things, and I don't think you've taken too much liberty with what he put down there. I mean, you have some swing sections and things, but
yeah, but even the swing sections, I don't know if you guys even notice, there's transition material that you can find elsewhere in the original score.
Yeah, no, I hear the score very well apparently.
Yeah, because I went through the score and said, okay, I really need this theme and I need this theme, and I knew I only had 5 minutes to have this arrangement be. So I would take other themes and just kind of jam them in as transitions or whatever. But so. Your solo, and we've talked a little bit about this in terms of
Let's talk about you.
how you interpret.
Enough about me. What do you think about me?
Well, Andy has the real lyrical ballad theme in this piece, and the stylistic point of view you take is not Tommy Dorsey, is it?
No, definitely not. And I felt that it seems like an orchestral moment at that time, and I thought, well, how would an orchestral player play that? And he'll play it pretty straight, I would think, and
in terms of vibrato.
Vibrato, yes, I'm talking about vibrato. And I play smooth. I take chances I'm not putting a tongue attack on any of the notes. I'm playing it pretty straight, just air and hitting the notes with my chops. And which is hard to do, actually. And the less vibrato you put on it with a slide, it makes it even tougher.
For the pitch.
Yeah, because you have to nail the pitch, you have to nail the intonation, you've got to nail the intervals, and you can't cover anything up with vibrato.
So you're showing off, basically, is what you're
basically, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You know what I'm talking about here?
Pulling focus from my chart, pulling focus from Gershwin. I mean,
you're just showing off. That's all.
No, but I'm just saying, I thought the piece, I thought it would sound a little corny to put slide vibrato on it, to tell you the truth. And I don't know if you want me to put slide vibrato on it, I'd be more than happy to.
Well, it's a little late now.
Well, it's become kind of a bit for us in the band that we tease him that he doesn't do it. I seriously am not ready to ask you to do that because it should be you. It should be your interpretation of it. I confess that my ears were used to hearing more of a Dorsey-esque Dick Nash kind of thing on it. But I think what you do is completely lovely, and he's right. I think it is harder, you can cover a multitude of sins with your stylistic inflections and vibrato and things like that.
It also, but in my opinion, if you don't mind me, a slide vibrato on the trombone does date things. Trombonists seem to get away with it more though on ballad type things. They use a lot of vibrato. If a trumpet player went to that era, it would sound corny. Like if I went to Harry James, for instance, when I take the solo. Now I did put a little vibrato on it just to take it because I took the ball from Andy. Okay, now I'll add a little bit.
Well, but plus it modulates.
Yeah.
And kind of raises intensity.
But without making it. But if he did it like Tommy Dorsey, then I did it like Harry James.
Is there a trumpet player that you kind of model your approach after for a solo like that?
There's a lot of guys, but I think of maybe guys that I work with in town here, like Warren Loning, uses a slower vibrato. It still sings, but it doesn't date things so much. A little hipper, I mean, I think the trumpet thing needs to be warmed up a little bit.
Thinking about other soloists, like what Maynard would do, he'd be vibrating like
he'd be
crazy.
He'd be all over it.
Doc Severinsen, what would Doc do?
Well, Doc would schmaltz it up. It'd be more Harry James kind of thing.
Harry James.
And it would sound great. I mean, it wouldn't sound bad to do that, but I do think it dates it. It would date it.
You can listen to Wayne's solo, and he does have especially when he sustains a note. There's just kind of a pulse to it, a movement to the note as he holds it. And I think that actually gives, it helps sustain the note and propel the note through the end of the
Yeah,
phrase.
I mean, that's what I think about trying to make it resonate more than use vibrato. You know?
How did you work out the breathing on that? Because I know it's a pretty windy solo, and finding places to tank up to get to the end.
Well, the first few times I didn't know where to breathe, and I didn't want to take breaths because there's things like, well, I'd love to sustain this through. But I found a couple of places where I could sneak a quick breath, and then I wanted the big payoff where it goes to the F. I didn't want to breathe there, and that's the obvious place to breathe. So I tanked up before that and backed off on the section before, volume-wise, and then did a crescendo.
But let's not forget what was happening with Wayno right around the time we started playing that chart, because you had a little injury. Right?
Yeah, I had a lip injury.
And you were coming back from that and having to play arguably one of the more difficult moments you have to play on the gig.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there a kind of a mind over matter thing, you guys, when you're dealing with maybe some kind of physical problem, and it's time to play some music, and you step up and you play it or you don't? Is there some sort of a mindset that you get into to do that?
Wow, the only thing I can think of is you just have to start thinking about your airstream. Make the air work for you. Make the air support work for you. And don't psych yourself out as far as that goes. But I know there's been times where I've played the trombone so much where I can barely get a sound out. I can't play anything soft or something like that, so that really freaks me out. When that comes, I know Wayne knows a lot more about chops than I do because he's been through much different types of problems. But I feel that you have to get a hot shower or something like that, loosen things up, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're rested, and I think everything comes together.
So it's not a function of breath support. It's just the interface.
I think it's both. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's both.
Yeah, the breath sort. I mean, when I get into trouble, when I'm tired, and I'm on the gig, I'm going, okay, we got 3 tunes to do. I still got to throw down here, and my chops are tired. I'm beat up. I'm swollen. You know, my lip hurts a little bit.
Also, a good left hand to pass the chart to the next guy.
Yeah, that's a great trait of a great lead trumpet player. Is like, hey, you want to play this one? You know? But I definitely think about my air, and I think about relaxing my upper body and just going to the fundamentals that I teach in my master classes and stuff. And I try to practice what I preach, and I find that gets me through the gig. And a lot of times I'll get through the gig, and even my colleagues will go, man, how did you do that? You were on the ropes.
I remember. Do you remember when he came back from? It was a Japan trip or something.
Yeah, we were in Canada.
And
right?
you met us in Canada, and you were just toast. You were completely.
I played 17
trashed.
days in a row of like the hardest music ever written.
Right, and then we did one night, and I remember we were doing Horn de Puente, and Wayne got through it, but it wasn't vintage Wayne. And then the next night, I took a little bit of a calculated risk because I really played it up on his introduction. I mean, I laid it on, you know, and built it up. And Wayne stepped up there and just flipped the switch, you know. Just it was old time Wayne. It was really remarkable to see that happen. Do you remember that night?
Yeah, I do. I remember. I just kind of needed it a day because that first night back, you remember, I was late. My airplane was late. I sat on the runway. I got in. I missed our first gig.
Right. That's right.
And then when I got there, I mean, my chops I was jet lagged, time change, and chop problems. I mean, I had no physical strength, and that was the kind of the problem that night. I had a night's rest.
So what you're saying is it wasn't my words of inspiration to you. It was just you had another day,
no,
and there it is. Had nothing to do with my leadership or the example I set.
You know, I know it's your band, but it's not always about you.
What?
No, it did. I mean, when I hear that, I'm going, okay, I got to throw down too. So the adrenaline kicks in, and that all helps as well. But you can have all the adrenaline you want if your chops are not responding. You're going to fall flat on your face. It's like punching a car with no gas in it. It's not going to go. Yeah. So, and also, I don't want to suck. It's kind of like a motto.
Despite,
Yeah, no. But it's kind of a motto of mine to go out there going, okay, I'm not going to suck tonight. So,
fear is a good motivator.
Yeah,
isn't it though? Well, lest we take up all of our time with a whiny brass playing my chops talk, let's go to one of the songs on the record that has completely surprised me in terms of its appeal to people. And frankly, it wasn't going to make the cut on this record.
Oh, please.
I'm telling you. Hey, you got to admit, that was pretty awesome. And there's more to come, so check back soon for more episodes of the making of That's How We Roll.